You crack a bone open against a rock. Marrow spills out, pale and soft. You scoop it out with 2 fingers and eat it raw, still warm from the animal's body heat. No plate. No fire yet. Just fat dripping down your wrist. For most of human history, this wasn't disgusting. This was dinner. And it might have saved your species from disappearing entirely. For nearly 2 million years. Before agriculture, before pottery, before anyone had ever salted a piece of meat, your ancestors ate things that would make a modern stomach turn. Rotten meat, insect larvae, bone grease, stomach contents pulled straight from a dead animal's gut. Why would anyone eat that? Because the real danger was never the food. It was starving before you found any food at all. Let's start with the bones. At Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, paleoanthropologist Henry Bunn examined animal bones scattered nearly 2 million years ago. Lying beside some of the earliest stone tools ever discovered, many of those bones had been deliberately smashed open. Not for the meat still clinging to the surface, for the marrow hidden inside. Marrow is fat, pure, dense, calorie-rich fat. And fat, not meat, may have been the real prize your ancestors were chasing. Here's the twist almost nobody expects. Lean meat alone can kill you. It's called protein poisoning. Early Arctic explorers gave it a blunter nickname, rabbit starvation. They survived on lean rabbit meat alone and grew weaker by the day, even while eating constantly. Your liver can only break down so much protein before the excess becomes toxic. Without fat or carbohydrates alongside it, your body starts failing, no matter how much meat fills your stomach. So what does that mean for a hunter with no access to bread, rice, or oil? It means fat wasn't a luxury. It was the difference between living and dying. Anthropologist John Speth has spent decades studying exactly this. His research suggests early humans weren't hunting for meat in the way we picture it today. They were hunting for fat, bone marrow, brain tissue, the organs nobody wants on a modern plate, liver, kidney, the thick fat wrapped around the intestines. These weren't leftovers handed to the lowest ranking member of the group. They were often the first thing eaten and the most fought over. Picture the scene. Your group brings down an antelope just before dusk. There's no time to be picky, and there's no refrigerator waiting at home. The hunter who made the kill doesn't claim the best cut of muscle. He claims the fat, the brain, the marrow, the organs packed with nutrients that lean tissue simply doesn't have. Hands first. No utensils. The marrow doesn't even need fire. Everyone eats fast. Because every other predator on the savannah smelled this kill before you finished butchering it. And the eating. Doesn't stop with mammals, termites. And insect larvae were part of the human diet for an enormous stretch of our existence, and in many places, they still are today. Archaeologists Lucinda Backwell and Francesco Derrico examined bone tools from sites in South Africa, estimated at well over 1 million years old. The tips were worn smooth in a pattern that matches one specific motion, digging into termite mounds. Why would anyone bother? Because termites don't run. They don't fight back. And they're packed with fat, in a body the size of a fingernail. For a species that hadn't yet invented the spear, that made termites one of the safest meals available, plants weren't ignored either, even by the species most stereotyped as pure carnivores. Anthropologist Amanda Henry studied microscopic plaque scraped from fossilized Neanderthal teeth and found something unexpected hiding inside it. Starch granules, the leftover residue of cooked grains and roasted root vegetables. Neanderthals, long pictured as brute meat eaters, were roasting plant food over open fire tens of thousands of years before farming existed anywhere on Earth. The coast offered its own version of the same logic. At Pinnacle Point on the southern tip of South Africa, archaeologist Curtis Marion uncovered thick layers of shellfish remains dating back over 100,000 years. Mussels, limpets, sea snails. None of them require a spear, a chase, or any real risk of injury. The tide simply hands them over, twice a day, every day like clockwork. For a coastal population, that kind of food source wasn't exciting. It was reliable, and reliable, when starvation is always one bad week away, can matter more than abundance ever does. But the twist that breaks almost every modern assumption is rotten food. Right now, the smell of spoiled meat triggers instant disgust in you. That reaction evolved for a reason. It exists to stop you from eating something dangerous. But across hunter-gatherer and Arctic societies, deliberately aged, buried, or fermented meat wasn't a mistake waiting to happen. It was a calculated strategy. Inuit communities have long practiced caching meat underground or beneath stones, letting it ferment slowly over weeks. The smell is overwhelming by modern standards. The texture changes completely, but fermentation can break food down into something easier to digest. And in an environment where fresh meat might not appear again for days, preserved food, however pungent, meant the difference between eating and not eating. This is the part that's easy to miss when you picture prehistoric life as one long chaotic scramble for scraps. It wasn't chaos. It was strategy, sharpened over hundreds of thousands of years by people who could never afford to waste a single calorie. So, reconstruct a full day, morning. You wake at first light, not because of an alarm, but because your body simply has nothing left to wait for. Foraging begins immediately. Roots pulled from the ground, fruit knocked loose from low branches, maybe a handful of grubs pried out from beneath a rotting log. Nothing is too small to matter. Even a fistful of beetle larvae is worth the effort. Because calories ignored in the morning don't wait around for you to change your mind by noon. Midday brings bigger opportunities, but never guarantees. Maybe your group stumbles onto a carcass of lion already abandoned. You don't hesitate. You crack the bones for marrow before the hyenas circle back. Maybe there's no meat at all that day, and your protein comes entirely from insects and roots instead. Maybe someone spots a low tide, and the whole group shifts direction toward the shoreline. Baskets ready. Because shellfish caught early in the day means one less thing to worry about by nightfall. Is that a bad day? By modern standards, maybe. By the standards your body actually evolved for, it's simply Tuesday. By evening, if the hunt succeeded, a fire glows at the center of camp. Roots and tubers roast slowly in the embers. The organs go first, because they spoil the fastest. And because everyone instinctively understands, without ever reading a nutrition label, that fat keeps a person alive longer than lean muscle ever could. Nothing about this is primitive. Not in the way that word usually gets used. It's precise, it's efficient. It's a diet shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of trial, error, and brutal natural selection deciding who got to survive winter and who didn't. So here's the modern mirror. Right now, an entire industry sells you clean eating. Trim the fat, skip the organ meat, stick to the lean fillet, the parts that photograph well on a plate. It feels healthy. It feels modern and disciplined. But isotope analysis on Neanderthal bones, led by researcher Michael Richards, tells a very different story. The nitrogen signatures in their bone collagen matched apex predators, wolves, lions. The very top of the food chain, meaning these supposedly primitive humans, consumed enormous amounts of fat-rich animal tissue, organs included, and thrived on that diet for hundreds of thousands of years. Your ancestors weren't avoiding fat. They were chasing it relentlessly. Liver, marrow, brain. The very foods modern diet culture tells you to scrape into the trash were the foods that carried early humans through ice ages, droughts, and famine winters that would have wiped out a population eating lean meat alone. Why does any of this matter to you? Scrolling through a video on your phone, thousands of years removed from a single hunt. Because your cravings haven't caught up to your grocery store. You didn't evolve to crave kale and skinless chicken breast. You evolved to crave fat. Because for nearly all of human history, fat was the line between making it to spring and not making it at all. So the next time you trim the fat off your dinner and drop it in the trash without a second thought, remember what your ancestors would have done with it. They wouldn't have wasted a single gram. You crack a bone open against a rock. Except this time, you understand exactly why. And why some part of you still craves every drop of what spills out.